Welcome to the October 22nd, 2018 meeting of the Florissant City Council. The first item is the Pledge of Allegiance. Will please Troop 713 and Pack 797 come up and lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, please. Gentlemen. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen. Clerk, please call the roll.
Shildroth. Here. Henke. Here. Pagano. Here. Parson. Siam. Here. Harris. Here. Jones. Here. Egan. Here. Caputa.
Here. Next item on the agenda is approval of minutes. Are there any corrections or additions to the meeting executive minutes of October 18? Hearing none. Councilman Egan moves to approve the minutes, second by Councilman Harris. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Ayes have it. Minutes are approved. Next item is a proclamation. Proclamation for Boy Scout Troop 713 and Cub Scout Pack 797, presented by Mayor Schneider and Councilman Siam.
There's actually two of them, so I'll read the Boy Scout Troop 713 first. Whereas Boy Scout Troop 713 was chartered in 1957 and is sponsored by the St. Rose Philippine Duchesne Catholic Church. And whereas Troop 713 welcomes all boys and adult leaders who share the following aims of Scouting: to build character by aiding the development of each boy's self-reliance, self-discipline, self-confidence, and self-respect; to foster citizenship by encouraging each boy to become an active and responsible member of the community; to develop fitness by helping each boy become physically, mentally, emotionally, and morally fit. Whereas Troop 713 not only provides service to our chartered organization, St. Rose, but also serves in the community through various projects, including scouting for food and many Eagle projects throughout Florissant and the St. Louis community. Whereas Troop 713 has 119 scouts earned the rank of Eagle Scout. Therefore, I, Thomas P. Schneider, by the power vested in me as mayor of the city of Florissant, Missouri, do hereby congratulate Boy Scout Troop 713 in celebrating 61 years of service and dedication to St. Rose Philippine Duchesne Catholic Church.
So I'm going to save my breath because I'm going to let each one of them make a 5-minute speech. I just want to congratulate all you guys and all the parents, all the volunteers, all the families that are involved in your scouting troop. Scouting is a very important activity. Three of my 4 sons were involved in scouting. My oldest son, Jake, was an Eagle Scout. And I see that you guys have graduated over 100 Eagle Scouts, and that's really fantastic. And I just want to wish you all the best. And if you guys have anything you'd like to say, I'll give you the mic.
Hello, I'm the senior patrol leader of 713. As senior patrol leader, and on behalf of all the troop, present and past, I'd like to thank you guys for this award. Ben.
I would just like to say thank you to all of you who were a part of making this happen.
Councilman?
I don't have much to add to that except my own congratulations. I was a Boy Scout when I was a kid as well, and it's really a great adventure, so congratulations to you guys.
Thanks. Get one more round of applause. You want to stay up while the other guys? Why don't you guys stay here? We'll get to the Cub Scouts. Tommy's got a rip in his. don't you guys stay here and we'll bring the Cub Scouts up too.
Okay. Whereas Cub Scout Pack 797 was chartered in 1968 and is sponsored by St. Rose Philippine Duchesne Catholic Church, and Pack 797 has nearly 100 youth registered as scouts and range from 5 to 11. Whereas Pack 797 has continually served as scouts in North County communities with dynamic personal service and an exciting active scouting program. We encourage teamwork, physical fitness, and a strong outdoor program. Whereas our service projects include litter cleanup, scouting for food, Christmas carols in the Missouri Veterans Home and St. Patrick's, as well as providing service to St. Rose Church through Donut Sundays. Whereas PAC 797 is proud to be involved in this family scouting, and we encourage all youth, boys and girls, to participate in active scouting and be active in scouting. Now therefore, I, Thomas P. Schneider, by the power vested in me as mayor of the city of Florissant, Missouri, do hereby congratulate Cub Scout PAC 797 in celebrating 60 years of service and dedication to St. Rose Philippine Duchesne Catholic Church.
And again, I'd like to thank all of you Cub Scouts for embracing the ideals of scouting, all you Cub Scouts and Webelos who will soon be Boy Scouts. You guys will be adopting the Golden Rule, and you'll be learning all the different attributes of scouting. And I want to thank all the adult volunteers that have helped out with your programs, because I know it takes a lot of time and hours. I have a grandson that's in scouting down in the southern part of St. Louis County, and I just know it's a very valuable experience, and good luck to all you guys. Thank you, everybody.
Next item on is a certificate of appreciation for Norm Currington, presented by Chief Tim Lauer. Norm?
Certificate of appreciation presented to Norm Currington by the Florissant Police Department with our sincerest gratitude for volunteering countless hours of your time to work as a neighborhood watch liaison for the Florissant Police Department. You willingly help whenever needed and continually demonstrate your dedication to the citizens and the city of Florissant.
One of the reasons that we have one of the best police departments in the entire nation is because of our Neighborhood Watch program, and I'll let the chief embellish that.
Well, I just want to say, first of all, Norm, thank you for everything that you've done for the Neighborhood Watch program. I mean, you've made this thing move forward. I mean, you've taken on the ward captain position, and you really, every month we had those meetings. You had wonderful statistics. You showed us where we're having some issues. You got all that information out to all our Neighborhood Watch captains and our ward captains, and I can't thank you enough for everything that you've done to enhance that program, because honestly, if it wasn't for your dedication, we would not be where we're at right now, Neighborhood Watch, and we continue to grow. It's because of efforts like that you've done for me, and I really appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you so much. And now Lance wants to say a few words.
Yeah. I just wanted to say a few words on behalf of the ward captains and the block captains and the other people part of Neighborhood Watch. Norm recruited me as a ward captain several years ago, and I have been very impressed with his statistical analysis of the crime, and it makes it very clear where the crime is occurring, and helps ward captains and block captains to focus on where to get the word out. And so, Norm, I just wanted to say that I really appreciate all your hard work. It was greatly appreciated.
Just very briefly, let me say that it's been a great pleasure working with the Florissant Police Department. As you may know, it is one of the top police departments in the state of Missouri. And with the leadership that the chief gives to the department as well as the officers, it's a department that it should give you a sense of pride in knowing that you are well protected in this city. I have been a part of the organization for many years, but the real effort, the real work has been the individual block captains as well as the neighborhood watch members themselves who provide the eyes and ears for the Florissant Police Department. And to them really is the thanks, I think, from the whole city to the efforts that they put forth and the safety that it provides for our community. Thank you.
Thank you, Norm. We appreciate everything you did for us. Thank you.
Norm, I think I speak for the city council. We really appreciate for what you do for the city, and very informative the way you put together the neighborhood watch, and that's why our neighborhood watch is so proactive and informative, and all because of you. Thank you. Next item is hearing from citizens. This is the time to speak to the council on any issues not necessarily on the agenda for 3 minutes. It's not a question and answer period. If you would like to speak to the council member or the mayor, please stay until after the meeting is over. And if you're here to speak on a public hearing, please wait and speak when the public hearing is announced. Robert Smith.
Robert Smith, 2823 Chapel View Drive. I have like 3 questions. Well, how many employees, well, this is related to the budget. This is a question I have for the budget. The number of city employees total that Florissant employs, do we have that number?
Off the top of my head. I could get it for you.
Okay.
Not right offhand.
So, well, then the next question was how many are Florissant residents that live within the city of Florissant? The last question is on the monthly operating budget, when will September come out?
We'd have to ask the finance director.
Okay. Then the next question is, in order to do a proper budget, do we not need to know what we're spending now to make sure that we're on top of proper numbers for next year? Because we're a month behind right now.
We have a new finance director, we're catching up.
Okay. She'll be there tomorrow. She'll be able to answer that.
Hope so, she's sick today.
Okay. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Robert. Next item on the agenda is public hearing. Public hearing 1808027 was opened on August 27, 2018 and postponed to this date. Is a petitioner present?
Good evening.
Good evening.
Juanita Gillette, 11 Patterson Plaza.
Okay, Juanita.
Yes.
We've been continuing this for a few, well, since August 27th.
Yes.
And in the packet that I received over the weekend with all our information for tonight's meeting, there was a letter in there from Phil Long, which is our building, and which he stated that the plans that you submitted weren't to specifics?
The plan that we submitted on the activities, it was,
The way it was drawn on the plans itself, the way you had,
yes,
Permission to speak? Excuse me. We originally submitted a professional plan with the original package that was submitted in May. due to a question that was posed by a council member as the activities that was to take place in each room, I provided a suggested floor plan to show which activities that was going to take place in each room that was not up to scale, because we don't actually have those equipment at this time. But their professional plan was submitted through zoning and planning at the requested time. That's why we was able to be approved by zoning and planning.
So is he requesting that you submit more plans?
No, we was requested by this council to provide information regarding to what activities that would take place in each room that was on the plan. So I provided a sketch from my own doing on what activities was going to take place with Grace and Mercy.
Because I know when myself, and I believe it was Mr. Jones, when we came by to take a look at the way you had that set up, I know me personally, the way you have it set up, I just don't think them 3 rooms that you have, or 4 rooms, not set up for an adult daycare center. That's me personally. That's just the way I look at it. I mean, your bathrooms are unisex. I mean, and I know with the younger crowd, really don't mind that, but I mean for older residents and citizens, I think that's an issue, is with the bathrooms, because every bathroom that is in there is unisex. There's not one that says male, a designated male and female bathroom in the last time I seen it. So, and I think that's an issue. That's me, and we let you know that also. We did let you know that, and that's my concerns. And like I said before, my residents are letting me know about everything that's going on over there, and we're still having problems with the noise. Like I said, I don't know about this weekend. I haven't heard nothing yet this weekend, which that's good. That's probably one of the first ones I haven't heard in a while. But last weekend, couple weekends ago it was noise. More noise, noise, noise. That's all we get from there is the noise. And that's my concern with the event center and both, which you would like to combine both together. Mr. Hessel.
If I may, Mr. President.
Oh, I'm sorry. There you go.
Let me supplement the record. Following the last council meeting, Mr. Goulet sent an email to Karen Goodwin, the city clerk, and myself on October 17th, 2018. Thank you, Mr. Goulet. In which he also attached documents, including a request to remove Sonia Dulick from the request to authorize an amendment to the special use permit, a second copy concerning the floor plan dated August 22, 2018, and third, they submitted a copy of a PowerPoint presentation plan, which I believe is included in the packet. Also for the record, on October 17th, same date, I responded to Mr. Goulet in part by indicating that we needed to address 2 different issues. The first one that I addressed was the special use permit previously granted to Metropolitan Events, LLC. Sonia Dulick is the owner. That was granted back in 2016. And I indicated that the city needed to know whether or not Mr. and Mrs. Goulet intended as Grace and Mercy Adult Program, Roman numeral II LLC, or some other entity to continue with the operation of the banquet event center. And if so, then I suggested that they needed to apply for a transfer of that special use permit because it was previously granted to Metropolitan Events LLC. I also indicated to them that city staff and city council remain concerned about having 2 significantly different uses operating at the same location. And I simply suggested that they needed to be prepared to address how those 2 different uses can be compatible, and suggested to them that they be prepared to fully discuss the operation of the adult daycare center with the city council, because that's one of the issues obviously pending before you. In response to that, On the same day, Mr. Glay responded by indicating it was their intention, upon being approved for the amendment to the special use permit to Grace and Mercy Adult Program, Roman numeral 2, that my wife and I would apply for a transfer of the special use permit previously granted to Metropolitan Events LLC, so that we would be allowed to continue to honor the contracts that was previously scheduled and to remove monies that are still pending to pay the rent, trash, utilities, etc. So based upon that, City Council, we can only assume that they are asking to continue with the banquet event center. From this response, I'm still not clear as to how long the continuation is going to be. But because of that, and because they previously indicated that Sonia Dulick was removed from Grace and Mercy Adult Program, that they need to apply for a transfer of the special use permit previously granted in 2016 over to them to operate the banquet and event center. That still needs to be done. They also went on to point out, and again, I don't mean to speak for you all, and stop me if you think I'm carrying on too long. They responded that the last couple of months, we have been working as event planners, which consist of scheduling events and designing events per the customer's request. As event planners, they easily view the adult day program as a planned event. So on Sunday after the last scheduled event has ended, we will have a designated crew that comes in and sets up the adult day program so that it would be ready for business on Monday morning. What makes this possible is that the two entities operate at different times. The adult day program hours are Monday through Friday between 7 a.m. and 4 p.m. The scheduled events normally take place Friday through Sunday. So that was their response to my email. And then, Mr. President, as you previously noted, Mr. Lum sent an email to Mr. and Mrs. Goulet on October 17th, thanking them for the documents and then indicating, as you previously noted, that the plans are not professionally prepared. They do not appear to be drawn to scale. The plan for the banquet center was drawn to scale, showing the entire rental area on one professional drawing, and that's referenced. And again, I'm paraphrasing it. And then he comments on rooms 1, 2, 3, and 4, and he is requesting better plans to scale for the council's review that show the entire facility. He suggests that there would be fewer questions instead of the sketches that break up the space. And again, that goes on for 2 pages, so I don't want to elaborate any further than that. And then on October 19th, Mr. Goulet responded to Mr. Lum, indicating that they have humbly submitted every request from your office and the City Council for information. He'd like to clarify what was said in the previous email that was sent, stating it was not necessary for us to apply for a transfer of the special use permit. And he indicated he's a licensed real estate agent with the state of Missouri. And that although the lease expires, they will then have the opportunity to go on a month-to-month tenancy. Again, the document is before you. I think that accurately summarizes the last email that I have seen, which is October 19, 2018. So that's all part of this record as well. So the matter is before the City Council. There's really the only thing pending at this point in time is the application for the amendment to the special use permit to operate the adult daycare center. But as this goes forward, the other issue has to be the transfer of the special use permit that was granted in 2016 from Metropolitan Events over to, I assume it's going to be Grace and Mercy. So again, that application still needs to be filed, and then it's up to the City Council to exercise its discretion to determine whether or not you want 2 uses at the location based upon the parameters that have been provided. And as I indicated in my prior email, whatever questions the City Council has, this is still part of the public hearing, that they should pose those questions concerning the operation of the adult daycare. And since they've indicated that they're also going to be operating the banquet event center, if you have questions pertaining to that, this would be the opportune time to raise those questions as well.
Mr. Parson.
Thank you, Mr. President. I guess the first question I have is actually for you, John. I know when we were last here, you had sent them an email requesting that they provide you with, I guess it was a list of maybe like 4 things that they needed in order for preparation on this vote. And I was just wondering, was that actually completed? I know you touched on a majority of it, but was that list completed or not?
The only thing that is missing is the application for the transfer of the special use permit.
Okay, okay. Then additionally, in terms of what Phil Lum is asking for, was this request previously made? Because I'm thinking these plans were submitted some time ago, right?
Right. May I speak? The original plans were submitted to zoning and planning, so the professional plan was submitted. But we was responding to a council member request for information on activities which Mr. Lum was not aware of it. So he went to do his job, but it was not necessary because it was a suggested activity floor plan. They wanted to know what type of activities we were gonna have. And so we made a suggestion of these what we're gonna do in these particular rooms. So not necessarily that it needed to be a professional floor plan because it wasn't something that was going to be permanent. It was a suggestion.
Wait, hold on just a second. So the floor plan was submitted back in August. This same floor plan, or is this something different?
That particular floor plan in August was submitted per the request of a councilman wanted to know about the activities.
Now, at that point, did Phil Lum request that you, or suggest that it wasn't to scale at that point? Because I'm concerned about the time that's passed.
He wasn't aware. He didn't receive that. He just received that.
He just now received it. Okay.
A couple of days ago. He didn't understand why I submitted that particular plan. I submitted to respond to a councilman request to activities that would take place. It has nothing to do with being a professional plan, which was originally submitted to the zoning and planning back in May. And I have a copy of the original plan that was submitted to, and it's a professional plan that was submitted to zoning and planning back in May. So that was not an issue. He was just addressing it because that's his expertise, but he didn't understand why it was submitted. And regarding the transfer of special use, I didn't think it was necessary to have a special use transfer, seeing that when a lease expires, it goes to a month-to-month tenancy. We've already submitted a copy of the scheduled events that are supposed to take place until the end of the year.
You submitted a copy of that?
We submitted a copy of that. And so that's what the request to satisfy the events that were already scheduled. That's what we requested. Yeah, that they would be honored at December 31st, which would take place anyway, due to the fact that we're on a month by month.
Oh, okay.
And it would only go, so we can only schedule the events to December 31st anyway.
And then
after
it ends.
And it ends, and then Grace and Mercy, we said this numerous times, that Grace and Mercy would take effect, and Metro would no longer exist after the scheduled events have taken place.
So all of these events, will this be it, or is it a possibility that you could add some other things?
Yeah, that would be the end of Metro events that were scheduled after December the 31st. That's why it was not necessarily to do a transfer of the special use program, since we're already in contract month by month, which is a landlord law that's already been established in the state of Missouri.
So at the end of this year, there's not going to be any other events?
That doesn't exist, and we've made that clear for several months now. We've been making it clear.
So I think that's kind of what my concern is. We've had some issues with the, I guess, the nightly events, in terms of safety and things like that. So I understand. All right, thank you. Those are all the questions that I have.
Mr. Egan.
If I may, Mr. President, I don't mean to interrupt,
Sure.
Mr. Egan, if I may. I think the confusion lies in the fact that the lease is one thing that needs to be addressed, but that's between a landlord and a tenant. And the city obviously needs to know that you have a lease. But a special use permit was granted by this body, the city council, to Metropolitan Events. If anyone wants to transfer a special use, and this council has dealt with that hundreds, if not thousands of times, that requires an application to transfer it from Metropolitan Events to the new owner-operator of the banquet events. So that's entirely unrelated to that's an overstatement. It's only related to the lease to the extent that you can verify that you have the space and the entitlement to use the space. The special use permit is is a power that's granted by the city council to operate the business. That's why I keep repeating that there has to be an application for the transfer of the special use permit, in this case from Metropolitan Events over to your entity.
Yes, sir.
That's where the confusion
Yes,
lies.
sir. And I did make mention in the letter that I submitted to you that upon approval, that we would submit that information because.
But in order to operate the banquet event center, you need to have a transfer.
But we're.
And if you're going to do it separately, that means that we're going to have another hearing and we're going to go through the process. Now is the time to address the transfer.
Excuse me, sir, I'm not understanding that anything would cease or decease as of right now until December the 31st. We're still in lease.
It's not a lease. That's where we keep getting back to. I'm not talking about the lease. I'm talking about the special use permit that was granted by this legislative body to a different entity called Metropolitan Events. And when someone wants to transfer that special use permit, then they need to make an application so that the city council can approve the transfer from Metropolitan Events over to a new entity. It's not related to the lease. That's a different issue.
And would it be feasible if it were to take place after this amendment would be approved? Wouldn't that be also feasible, that it could take place after the fact?
The fact that this public hearing is taking place and it's been mentioned, it is my opinion that it should be done now.
Right.
Because you've already indicated in your email, you've indicated to the city council that two of you are operating the banquet event center. That is effectively a transfer. So it needs to occur so that if there are issues, the city would then come to you and not Sonia Dulick to address any issues associated with the banquet event center.
The removal of
Mr. Caputo, may I jump in? Thank you. Yeah, I have a couple. I got quite a few things. Number one, the way I review this, and by looking at this package of documents I received, Ms. Dulick took her name off of the Grace and Mercy Adult Program too. She's no longer associated with that. We all agree on that.
Yes.
She still owns a special use permit that I voted for that. And to be candid, it strikes me as we're operating the event center illegally. I mean, a gray area. Let's call it a gray area. She's no longer involved, and you've assumed her business, essentially, is how I'm viewing this. My question, and I want to make sure I'm very clear on this. Number one, after December 31st, is it your plan to continue to book activities?
No.
No, we made that clear several times.
I want to make sure, because then I don't want to operate two businesses in the same facility.
Right.
I'm adamantly against that.
Yes, sir.
And I'll be very honest, the event center has been an abject failure. So I'm really confused here because we just went through this thing where we talked about where people would pull tables out and set back up. Didn't I just hear this a few minutes ago? Maybe I was asleep and dreaming. I thought we talked about in this correspondence, Mr. Hessel stated, there were crews that would come in and break down events and then be prepared for the daycare on Monday. Did I not hear that? I heard that, right?
To finish the scheduled events, that's how it will take place.
So you're not, after January,
December 31st.
you're only going to operate a daycare center. No church, no events, nothing like that, correct?
Okay, now we are a church, so we can't truly say that we won't have church because we are a church entity. We are a church.
Again, I'm not really wild about a double-purpose facility.
There are no more events after December 31st.
You mentioned the word church. And
Well, yeah, because and looking at a list of events, you have church scheduled quite a few times.
We are a church, so it's not an event. That's who we are. We are the church. So you can't separate us from a place.
Okay.
Because wherever we go, we bring the church with us.
Okay, well, that's wonderful. Let me ask you a specific question about the daycare. As I understand, the facility has 3 restrooms.
May I address that, sir?
I asked a question, yes, please do.
Okay, we had this issue that I brought and I submitted the information regarding the state rules and regulations that will be addressed by the state of Missouri, and that we would adhere to all of their rules and regulations pertaining to the 3 restrooms and in compliance with however amount of occupancy that we'll be able to hold would be ruled by the state of Missouri.
Okay, so you have 3 restrooms, correct? Is that the answer?
Yes.
Yes,
Okay, how many employees and patients or customers do you plan on having for those 3 restrooms?
Sir, according to the state of Missouri, whatever they would allow us to have based on 3 restrooms.
I don't know that I feel comfortable approving something blindly without knowing that I'm going to have, let's say, 3 people and 20 restrooms, or 20 people and 3 restrooms. Just how I feel. I know that this property, the event center, has been an abject failure from a community standpoint. The people that live in that area are frustrated, and I agree with them. And I know you keep saying you're distancing yourself from that, but I still see some events coming up that concern me on this list. I'll be very candid with you. And I'm very worried about dual usage of a facility, number 1. And number 2, I want to know how many people, for how, you've called them, clearly, you've called them and asked them this question. And what did they tell you?
Sir, upon approval, we're going to seek the inspection from the state, but not until we have a voice. We don't have a voice at this time.
Well, if I was going to buy a car before I went and bought the car, I'd make sure I do all my homework on it.
Right. We are under the understanding that whatever the state of Missouri would allow regarding the 3 restroom, and that's where we can't make that decision.
Well, we're at what we call an impasse. You can't agree with me, and I can't agree with you. I personally cannot vote unless I know what we redid our daycares, for children daycares, about 4 or 5 years ago, and we worked very, very hard on that. And I want to know what I'm up against, so I hope you understand that. That's all I got. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Egan. Mr. Jones?
Yeah, I'm just very confusing on all this, but looks like you guys are putting the cart before the horse on some aspects of it. I know me and Jeff came up there and looked at your facility. We both agreed in the nurse's station there needs to be a sink, and I still don't see that in the, happening. The other thing is, this is for Mr. Hessel. So on the planned events that they are throwing, they're not responsible if something was to go wrong, correct, John?
At this point in time, the special use permit is still under the ownership of Metropolitan Events LLC. Now, they've identified they're the agents for Metropolitan Events LLC by virtue of the fact they've identified that they're handling those events. So legally, yes, they would be responsible along with Metropolitan Events.
Okay, the only part I don't understand, how come she's not up here? I mean, it just don't seem right to me. If she was in full backing of you guys to hand this over, it seems like she would have marched right up here to reassure us this is what's happening, and I'm not seeing that. We've, like I said, Jeff's mentioned it many times, we've had numerous calls, you guys up there, and I don't think you guys are looking at our aspect of it. We're voted in every couple of years, and those people that are calling and screaming at us right now, that are staring at us, they're going to want to know what's going on after this meeting, that are watching us right now on cable TV, are making sure that we do our due diligence. You know, there's nothing personal, you guys. I wish this shopping center where you guys were located was not in a residential area, and we would be very easy to work with you. We want businesses like you to stay here. We want you guys to come here. But we don't want you to think we're throwing stones at you guys for no reason. We're not like that, you guys.
Right.
We try to reach out so our businesses don't leave. What can we do to help you and stuff like that? You're guys in a bad shopping center right now, backed up to a bunch of houses, you guys. And if I was one of those houses back there, I would be screaming. I'd be saying, no way, don't do nothing for them, because I live back here. And that's what we got to look at that you guys are not looking at. Like I said, we're pro-business people. We want people to come here. So I just don't want you guys to think, and I understand it's very frustrating to you guys, but we do have to do our due diligence.
Yes, can I speak? We do respect your position highly. We do respect you, and we take your opinions and your suggestions at heart. When I talked to Chief Lowry and sat with him and suggested some things that we can do to finish out the year and not plan anything else, I sat there, I looked up the ordinance, the noise ordinance for 11 o'clock in the Florissant area. So we don't, even the people that was scheduled for 12 midnight that Sonia Dulick requested, I spoke with them and told them all music is cut off by 11 o'clock. Everything that I suggested to Chief Lowry, we have been dotting the I's, crossing the T's. We have been, before the parties even begin, or not before they begin, but when they begin and the music begin, we go out in the back and we sit out there. We sit in the back to make sure that the noise do not rise up. And you can barely sometimes hear that, the music, and we sit out in the front and anything. But we have been watchful. But I respect everything that you're saying. We're citizens too, but we have been, the noise volume has been tremendously knocked down, even the bass. I talked to them about the bass, and just about every person that has booked something or neighbors in that neighborhood, the majority, maybe not but one, and they're our neighbors anyway, but when I suggest that and tell them what the ordinance is and this is what we're going to do, they abide by everything. No loitering out in the parking lot, nothing. So we have been there. We have been listening. We have even asked we go down to the lounge. I go down to the lounge, the barber, and the dance studio, and the new barbecue place. I even asked them, I sit in the barber while the parties are going on and listen to see if it's beaten against the wall or anything, and he said everything is fine. So I've been doing my homework, but I was just wanting to just finish out to December 31st when, and just stop. I mean, we're not taking any more contracts or anything. We're just stopped, but we just wanted to finish up what was already there so that we don't have to pay these people back. And the money that we received was helping pay the rent and the utilities. So the parties, if you look on there, there's on the schedule, the parties are not, it's mainly charity things. There's some parties, but I already talked to the clients already and let them know this is this and this is that. And if they can't abide by it, then we just have to, but everybody agreed. I went down the line, even the December parties, and called every client and told them, this is what we have to do. We have something new. You cannot stay until music until 12 o'clock. We had to cut it off. But we don't have, I think, but one or two that was scheduled for 12 midnight, and that was through Sonia Dulick. But I already talked to them, 11 o'clock, all music cease, and the volume of the music has to be a certain level.
Mr. Hinkie.
Yes, good evening. I'm looking at the events scheduled. I think that's the main issue here is having events. It's going to be one or the other. It's going to be the adult daycare or it's going to be event center. Well, I think you're hearing pretty plainly it's not going to be an event center.
Right.
So we're going for the daycare. But I'm looking at the events that are in here, and there's Pastor Goulet, Pastor Jackson is having church services. Are these different, for want of a better way, churches? I mean, who is Pastor Jackson and Pastor Goulet, I'm assuming? Yeah. Yes. Who is Pastor Jackson? Is this a separate church entity, or is it part of your church? Or is are they paying you for space to have a church service there?
Yes, they're paying to have a church service there.
Okay, so the event, so what you're saying is after the first of the year, after the end of this year, there will be no more other church services there. There will not be a Pastor Jackson church service there. And your church services will not be held there. It will just strictly be an event center. I mean, it will strictly be the adult daycare. Excuse me, I misspoke.
Right. understand that we are a church operating an adult daycare program, so we're operating in a spirit of love.
So I get all that. I get it. There will be
Yeah.
nothing in this venue that is not related to your
any-
church or the daycare.
Right, just the choice of word. We are the church. We are a church, so we bring the church.
So
with us.
so
We're not a
anything,
separate
anything,
entity.
there will be no events there. I guess what I'm saying is because
Right.
you guys are
There-
applying through the Missouri Department of Health and Senior Services,
Yes.
okay, to be paid by the state for whatever the daycare is,
Yeah.
okay? For the daycare, you're gonna charge them for whatever the daycare is here, okay?
Yeah.
What I want to clarify is that the events, a separate issue, the events are strictly related to your church and no one else's, okay? Or your ministry, whatever you call it, I don't mean to insult in any way. But your ministry or your church will be, any event in there is directly related just to your ministry,
Right.
okay?
Right.
And this is okay with the Missouri Department of Health and Senior Services to run a dual use a church and a senior adult daycare there.
Correct, sir.
When you said any events, my mind just went like when we have appreciation for, say, the nurse or something in the daycare, then we will have a special event. That's the only thing. Any outside events that come in, any other churches that come in, no, sir. There's no more events, no more.
I think you feel the apprehension of this city council of what's going on here. Part of it is what has happened there. And we're trying to avoid that at all costs. So we don't, I feel like I'm trying to thumbtack Jello to the wall here. We're trying to get it this very definitive of what the use is going to be in this. What we want to know definitively is this going to be directly related to your church and the adult daycare center. No other churches, no other events, no birthday parties, no graduation parties, nothing.
No outside events.
Nothing.
That's the word. No outside events.
Thank you, Ms. Hinkie. Mr. Harris.
Hi, I heard Mr. Hessel say that in order to move forward with this, there would need to be an application for transfer of special use permit. And it seems like you disagree with that.
Well,
but what is your objection to applying for that being the process which is needed?
Thank you for bringing up that question, Councilman Harris. My understanding is when we assume the lease, it took us back to the original date of the lease. So anything that was grandfathered during that time, we would also assume.
Sir, can you speak
Mr.
into
Gore.
the mic?
Yes, sir. It's my understanding that assuming the lease, we also assumed it from the original date of the contract. So whatever was attached to it, we also assumed that to include the responsibility. We was instructed that we had to put insurance on the building. We had to do that, and that was our responsibility. So we were responsible for the actions of anyone that was to come into the place or to get hurt. So we
But
assumed
it
responsibility.
seems like you're disagreeing with the legal
Well,
counsel.
I didn't understand why it needed to be transferred when it's still in existence. Nothing changed. Nothing doesn't change until December the 31st.
So.
And I don't understand.
That's what we're all speaking of, sir, is I mean, everybody that spoke on this for the past, how many, couple months now, we are all claiming we don't one business coincide with another business in the same building, which you're doing.
Okay.
That's exactly what is going on, correct?
Well, we understand that
And after December 31st, it don't matter what happens after December 31st. This is right now.
Right
Whatever
now.
you have events scheduled to December 31st, correct?
Correct.
So Sanya Dulick is out of the picture, correct?
Concerning Grace and Mercy, she's out of this request for an amendment. She's out of Grace and Mercy.
So
She's-
in my mind,
the lease still in effect.
in my mind, the process has been clarified. You're saying you didn't understand the process up until this point or what was needed, but now Mr. Hessel is saying, well, this is what you need to do. So I think that would be the step to take would be to figure out, okay, what do we need to do? Where's the paperwork? What do we need to do?
Okay,
at
in
this
doing
point?
so, will that affect the scheduled events? That's
No.
what I don't want to.
No, it
Okay.
will not.
See, that's why
It's
I
fairly
was-
painless. For example,
Uh-huh.
on the council agenda this evening, we have a request to transfer a special use permit from Archway Pizza, doing business as Domino's Pizza, to SFP Enterprises, Inc., doing business as Bus Loop Burgers, for the operation of a restaurant. There's an application that's received and the transfer is going, and I had the pleasure of speaking with Suzetta Porter earlier today. She understands that she's made that application. And what we're asking you to do is make the same application. You don't go back to planning and zoning. It would be part of this process. It really is painless. It
Right,
won't hurt.
because if it's anything like we're going through now, in 6
No,
months,
no,
it would be irrelevant.
You will not be
you
going
know?
back through the process. This is something that is done
Right,
quite frequently.
So would that be something that would have to bring to the council, would that be something that would be
File the
submitted?
application with Mr. Lum's office.
Actually,
and he'll walk you through it. Through Karen?
The special use transfer comes through my office, so you would come
Right.
to my office. I would
Even
get you the
easier, you
application
get to go to
out.
Karen.
So just come to my office and I will get you that application.
Right, and my next question is, could that also be approval contingency based on the transfer of the special use permit?
What we would then do is prepare, what I'm hearing is we would prepare an ordinance that would transfer the special use permit for the banquet event center and amend the special use permit concerning the operation of the banquet event center, because that's going to terminate as of December 31, 2018.
Correct.
And at the same time, the ordinance would allow the commencement of an adult daycare center. I'm still uncertain as to when that's going to commence. Candidly, I'm still uncertain, as Councilmember Egan raised, the number of residents or attendees. I'm still a little confused as to the activities, background checks on staff, program policies. I don't know what's going to be done as far as the administration of medicine. I don't know what's planned as far as the meals during the day. The only thing I know about so far is hours of operation, and you have to have a license from the state.
Exactly.
Those are the only two things that are clear to me. The rest of them, I'm not quite certain as to what conditions would be imposed, because I'm not quite sure of the operations.
Councilman Egan brought those questions up previously in other council meetings regarding the administration of medicine, which we were not going to be participating in. We're not administrating in medicine, and the background check is required with the state of Missouri. They need to know all the potential employees. A lot of the questions that are asking is pertaining to the state of Missouri responsibility and regulation, which we will adhere to upon being approved at this council meeting. There, even to include sinks, we do have a sink, even to include the number of bathrooms, the square footage is the responsibility, as I mentioned before, of the state of Missouri. And they're the one that will regulate what needs to be done, how many people that you are allowed to have based on how many restrooms that you have. And that's my understanding, according to the submitted regulation that I submitted to you, sir, Mr. Hassel. I submitted that information to you.
The only comment I will make is, yes, there are state regulations. Those are regulations that must be adhered to, but this city council has the authority to impose additional regulations beyond those imposed by the state. We've done that on more than one occasion. But again, that's up to the city council.
Ms. Pagano.
Hi, sorry about this, but I'm going to go back to last meeting when I was questioning, because tonight I'm totally confused. So these events that you have here, correct? You had stated last meeting, I believe, that Ms. Stulick is the one that took these. She scheduled those events, but I think that's what you said last week, that last meeting, that she was the one, and you didn't want to see these people lose any money, and so that's the reason you wanted to continue. I mean, that's what I remember hearing, that's what I know I wrote down. So now I'm just going to ask, who accepted the deposits from these people? Was it you or was it Ms. Dulick?
Ms. Dulick received the majority of the deposits. I received some of the deposits. The charity events that are on there, there was no deposit, no money exchange at all. But yes, she received the majority of the deposits, yes.
Okay, and then you said tonight that deposit money, the reason you want to have these is because you've already spent the deposit money to pay for the rent and things.
Correct.
Correct, so that
Yes.
it would have to come out of somebody's pocket in order to pay these people back.
Yes.
Right, whether
Yes.
yours or Ms. Dulick's.
Yes.
Okay. So that's, but the lease is over on October 31st, correct?
It's a month tendency
Month to month
And
to
it-
you or month to month to Ms. Dulick?
to us.
To you?
To us.
Because that was my other question with you that I didn't, I see the assignee paper in here, but I guess I didn't read the whole thing to see if it was month to month or who, from the landlord. So that was my other question. And now we get, when I get back into the, your church services, when are you going to have church services? Is this going to be a daily church service? Is this
No,
gonna be a Friday?
SOS Church, that's on the calendar, they have it only on Sundays from 9:30 until 12:30. They have like a Sunday school and a church service.
You do? No, yours.
No.
Your services, I'm talking
No,
about.
our services are not there.
Well, I
That's-
just thought he said you are the church and you were going to have services there. Did I?
Concerning the adult daycare program, we are the church, and we're going to be bringing the morals and the characteristics of a Christian to this service. That's part of our service. So we're talking about we as the church will service the people, according to the fruits of the Spirit, what I'm talking about, with love and with kindness and with charity and faith. So in that retrospect, how we're going to service the people is as the church that we are, but not a separate entity or event, as the Councilman Henke had made mention to it. There's no outside source after December the 31st. So all events will be in-house events related to Grace and Mercy and the adult program.
Right, so
after
you're not
December
going to
31st.
have that. My question is, when you say services, I'm thinking of a mass, and I'm.
No,
So
we
I'm like, are
don't.
you going to bring your congregation?
No, ma'am.
Into here? So
No,
it's
ma'am.
just residents from wherever, whoever can go to this adult daycare,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
And you, as Christians, are just
The church. We are the church.
going to take care of the people.
Right.
Yes.
But there are no church servants per
No,
se.
no,
Right.
no,
Okay.
at all, none
So
at
now
all.
I have a little bit of clarification.
Now.
Okay, I'm still really, my concern are these events. I see you're listed on a few of these events. I don't know. And I have some reservations about the daycare, and it's only because I did go in, I was able to peek in the windows. I wasn't able to, it didn't look, I guess I couldn't visualize where you were going to put everything in some of those rooms. The one that probably was the nurse's station sort of bothered me the most.
Yes.
Where the bed was right behind the receptionist, where a restroom was right behind there, and it looked small. And if I was sick, I wouldn't want people traveling in to, find out about the place and I'm laying in the sick bed. You
No,
understand? And
yes.
And then the restroom is right there, so then I have others, when I don't feel good, to be coming in to use the restroom. or whatever, you know, if I'm disabled or whatever, looking at this plan. So,
You're welcome to come by and look at it if you want to, but it's in the nurse's station, it's big. It's big enough for a bed, and you don't really hear any noise in there. There's going to be, yeah.
no, but if I came in, I'm looking at, let me find your plan again, I'm sorry. Yeah, we have the reception desk. We have a waiting area, then we have a reception desk, then I have a hospital bed, and then the nurse's station, and then the restroom. So, and then you get in through this door, correct? And this door. So, and if this is the door that patrons come in or whatever to find out about the program, I'm just saying, here's my reception desk, and there's me laying in the hospital bed.
And that's not necessarily correct, ma'am.
And so I'm looking at this
If you
wrong?
look at the original, same spot you got, there's a door to the entrance of that room.
Okay.
And so at
So
the,
that is a total big wall there?
Yeah, and
You're putting up
that's
a
a big-
wall,
and
because
so
right
at-
now I didn't see a wall when I peeked through the window.
It's a wall there.
right,
There's
a wall separating that.
like a little island right there, right in a small spot, and right behind it is a wall. And there's going to be a door that's right there. So the hospital bed and the nurse's station is not part of the reception area.
Right, it's separate.
Then again, I'm like this up to your windows, trying to get a visual of this in there, and that's where I was having the trouble, which, that was just one of the things I don't like, and I did not like the restroom situation at all. But that's me. You can go.
Thank you, Ms. Pagano.
Thank you, President.
Mr. Siam.
Thank you, Mr. President. Actually, my questions were asked by Ms. Pagano. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Egan.
Thank you, Mr. President. As I'm reading this public hearing, Mr. Hessel, I want to be very clear that what we're discussing right now is to allow the addition of an adult daycare center on this special use permit that is currently active. And regardless of how many promises we were made, I have no reason to disbelieve you, but even though they say they're not going to do anything after December 31st, the ordinance would allow that.
No, we would amend the ordinance.
We have to amend the ordinance.
That is correct. Based upon what's been presented during the public hearing. Again, Karen and I haven't drafted the ordinances, but my intention, based upon what I've heard over the last several meetings, is that we would be presenting to the City Council 2 ordinances. One would transfer the special use permit from Metropolitan Events to Grace and Mercy, and it would amend that special use permit for the Banquet Event Center such that it would terminate as of December 31, 2018. Then we would have a second ordinance, which would, and again, I'm making this up somewhat as I go along, we would be amending the special use permit for this location previously granted to Metropolitan Events, now transferred over to Mr. and Mrs. Goulet, and that would then allow for an adult daycare center. So we would address both of them.
Thank you.
No further questions on mine. I'm ready to move on.
Thank you, Mr. Egan.
Thank you.
So, Mr. Hessel, so we're still waiting on the application, correct, for this transfer of the special use permit.
We are, but that doesn't necessarily mean that you need that as part of this public hearing process. In other words, that's really not, as I stated earlier, that's a fairly administrative, painless process to occur, and we can move forward just as we have one on later on the council agenda. So the public hearing is truly to address more specifically the adult daycare center operations, and if there's no further questions, my advice is to close the public hearing If there are additional questions or issues, then have them addressed this evening or at the next meeting, whatever you prefer.
My only is the events, and you're still wanting 2 businesses out of the event center. Even though the event center is going to cease as of
December the 31st.
December 31st, correct?
Correct.
But it's,
If I may add.
yes, Mr.
Again,
Hessel.
by the time this process is completed, you're really going to be talking, in all likelihood, 1 month, December. Secondly, they still have to obtain a license from the state of Missouri to operate the adult daycare center. I have no idea how long that process takes, but I can speculate that it's probably going to be longer than 30 days. But I don't know that to be a fact. So if I'm incorrect, I apologize in advance. That's just my experience on other activities. I haven't sought for any client a license for an adult daycare center from the state of Missouri, but I have applied for licenses for various other uses, and it normally takes longer than a month.
Yes, sir.
But they may know that better than I.
Yes, sir. And that's why we needed the time to prepare for the inspection, because there's work that needs to be done in order to meet the rules and regulations of the state. And this is why we was urgently want those to be approved, so that would give us time to prepare to Grace and Mercy to be up and running perhaps by January. After December 31st, perhaps by January, perhaps it'd be running.
Mr. Egan.
I want to make sure that I'm clear that I'm not clear. I'm not prepared to approve 2 businesses in the same venue, and I'm not prepared to approve a adult daycare center that I know nothing about. And that's all I can tell you. That's my votes tonight. If there are any votes, I'm not going to approve something that I can't see and feel and understand. And I don't know anything about the adult daycare. I've asked one question and you won't give me the answer, or you can't give me the answer, other than we'll comply with the regulations. I appreciate that. I may want to have stronger regulations. I know I can't have any weaker, but I have real concerns about the number of the restroom facilities, and that's where I'm at, and I'm ready to close the public hearing as far as I don't care. We're just talking in circles.
Thank you, Mr. Egan. Mr. Pagano.
Yes, I just have a question, and this might be right to Mr. Hessel. I'm sorry. Our next meeting is on November 12th, I believe. Am I right? Yes. In that time period between the 31st and the 12th, they have 5 events scheduled. And right now would not have a permit, correct?
They're
No?
still, no, it is
Well, they
still
don't
being.
have a lease. I don't,
They have a lease, it's month to month.
month.
They're entitled to operate the banquet event center under the special use permit previously granted to Metropolitan Events.
to Sandra
To
Doolittle.
Sonia Dulick, that is correct. But it's Metropolitan Events LLC. And we have not, historically, we have not shut down a special use permit while they're involved in the process of a transfer. So they can continue to operate the banquet event center as the agent for Metropolitan Events, Sonia Dulick. The only thing I'm indicating is that we now know that agency really is going to be more, that they're really operating it. So they can continue to operate it while the city council considers it. If the city council were to deny the transfer of the special use permit, we'd have a different issue. That hasn't occurred.
I'm with you, Mr. Egan. I guess I'm still, because I think somewhere in my notes, I know that they said that if they didn't get it, that they would be going against our ordinance or something. I think it's somewhere in an email or something that I read this week about this.
From a legal standpoint, I don't believe that they're in
So they can
violation of any
continue to
ordinance at this
to
point.
do these events if we don't do anything tonight. Yes?
They can continue to operate under Metropolitan Events LLC as an agent for Sonia Dulick. They've been very candid with the city council and with staff by saying that Sonia Dulick is backing away and we want to take over that operation.
Right.
So they will then, if the city council authorizes the transfer of the special use permit, then all we've done is put everybody in the right spot. But that doesn't mean they can't continue to operate it. They could still operate it as an agent.
Up until December 31st.
Correct.
Okay, so then my other question is, why would the new ordinance, a new ordinance going into the adult daycare be a transfer of special use when it's
That's
a
not a
totally different?
That's
Wouldn't that be just a whole start over?
No, well, you have a special use permit that is there. You are amending the special use permit that is there to authorize an additional use. So what came before this body some months ago was a request to amend the existing special use permit that was granted for a banquet event center to allow an additional use known as an adult daycare center. So that's still, in essence, the same situation. We now have clarity that the first use will terminate as of December 31, 2018. And the new use really won't start before January 1. And in fact, if that's a condition the council wants to impose, we can do that.
Okay.
So there's a crossover between the two, such that, I know Mr. Egan said he's confused. I can address the first confusion, and that is if you have the existing banquet event center operation end on December 31, 2018, and in an ordinance you don't allow the adult daycare center to start before January 1, 2019, I've solved that first problem. I can't solve the second problem that you expresses, which is neither you nor I know much about the operations. But we can fill in those gaps to a degree somewhere down the road as you consider the ordinance, if that's what you would so desire.
So if the council voted on tonight and refused to transfer, then if we refuse to transfer, we put up, it's on the docket, we put it up and we refused it, then the special event center would die on its own at
The Metropolitan Events Center, Metropolitan Events LLC would continue on.
Forever.
At least on paper, that's correct.
forever.
May I respond to that?
Which is not what anybody wants.
Correct.
And keep in mind, you're not voting on anything this evening. This is a public hearing related to the amendment to the special use permit. Once you close the public hearing, Karen and I will prepare two ordinances. One is contingent upon our friends submitting the application for the transfer of the special use permit. We can have that on the next council agenda, just as you have one this evening, comparable to what you have one this evening. And we would amend that special use permit to put a sunset provision, meaning it's going to close, that operation will be over as of December 31. We can do that in an ordinance. And then again, we could put it all in one ordinance, but it would be a very long ordinance, because you would then also, and I'd suggest we do it in a second ordinance, authorize an amendment to the special use permit to allow an adult daycare center. Again, it may be semantics, but I know that Councilmember Pagano is struggling with an amendment to a special use permit when that special use permit is really going to be over by the time the new one starts. I understand the semantics of that, but it started out as an amendment to a use that's already existing, so there's no reason to start the process over again. To some degree, we're putting this round peg in a square hole, but we can make it work. Karen and I can make it work.
All right, it's time. Thank you, Mr.
That is up
Egan.
to the city council.
Mr. Parson.
Thank you, Mr. President. And I want to thank John for clarifying the point on us being able to only have the event center up until the 31st and then beginning the daycare on January. But I guess what my question is, I know that they don't really have specifics in terms of what the state is going to require. Is there a way for us to come back and revisit things after the state presents those requirements and they don't actually meet what we need, or not?
That is a great question that I don't really know the answer to. My initial reaction is no, that this city council, and we've done this in other matters where we generally know, we know the state is going to have requirements, Robert. I don't know what those requirements are. But regardless of what the state is going to do from their requirements, this city council has imposed other restrictions on other applications for other uses. For example, in this instance, I'll make up a number. Let's assume the state of Missouri allows 15. I made that number up, 15 people, but you don't want to allow, based upon the spaces you view it, you don't want any more than 10.
All right.
You can impose as a condition that there would be limited to 10, and I'll call them attendees or residents or whatever we want to call them.
Okay.
That's up to the discretion of the city council as to how many you would allow. Obviously, if it's more than the state, then the state restriction prevails. But you could impose
But there's no way, if we decided to do the amendment, there's no way we could come back after that. Well, you said you didn't know for certain. I'm sorry. Yeah, I'll withdraw that
I've
question.
researched that.
Okay.
My instinct tells me that we can impose additional conditions based upon operations, but I've not seen any case law to support my intuitions.
Okay, understood. That's all I have.
Thank you, Mr. Parson. Mr. Hinkie.
Yeah, it appears to me that what we need to do is probably close this public hearing and address the additional concerns in the ordinances that will be drafted specifically related to this. And we can draft any concerns of Part A, B, and C in the specific ordinances. If there's some problem with Ordinance A, that we can modify at that time, or Ordinance B, we can modify at that time. But I think I move we close this public hearing and we can, no objections.
Thank you, Mr. Hinkie. Mr. Harris.
Yeah, I just had a question because there was some discussion about this Grace and Mercy Adult Program being related to a church entity. And I understand the difference between big C and little c, legally versus spiritually, or, but this is not Grace and Mercy Adult Program LLC. That's not a 501c3. So it is for profit then?
It's for profit.
Okay. No, otherwise, because there's plenty of churches that have, this could be a church, and there's a lot of storefront churches. I don't know about in Florissant, but, and there are also churches who have daycare programs that run licensed daycare programs. So I would imagine, that it could be a nonprofit. So what is the, so it's been you're trying to run it as a business then?
As for profit, sir.
Okay, so really it's not, I would consider that a ministry necessarily. I get the intent, and I work for a school, right? So, it's, everybody, we're doing it, trying to help people. You do your job. If you're doing for profit, you could still be doing it with good intent. But I think as far as it being a business, we have to treat it like a business and make sure that it meets the requirements.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
So it's a for-profit business, but we are ministers, so we approach everything in a spiritual manner.
And
that's where.
And that's not really for us to consider as much as, are the legal requirements there, since this is a for-profit?
For profit.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Harris. Before we close this public hearing, is there anyone in the audience that would like to speak on this public hearing? Seeing none, Councilman Hinkie moves to close this public hearing, second by Councilwoman Pagano. All in favor? All opposed? Ayes have it, motion carried. Public hearing is closed. Thank you. Next item on the business is public hearing number 1810031.
In accordance with Section 405, 310 of the Florissant Zoning Code, a public hearing will be held by the City Council of Florissant, Missouri, in the council chambers at 955 Rue St. Francois on Monday, October 22nd, 2018, at 7:30 p.m. on the following proposition: to authorize an amendment to special use permit number 8130 as amended by ordinance 8208 to allow for the expansion of an auto repair and auto body shop, MAG Automotive, for the property located at 8461 North Lindbergh. Citizens will have an opportunity to be heard. Anyone with special needs should contact the city clerk at least 5 days before said public hearing by calling 839-7630 or TDD 839-5142.
Petitioner here, please.
Mark Gillette, 8461 North Lindbergh.
Thank you, Mark. This is Mr. Egan's ward. Mr. Egan, you have any thoughts, any comments?
Explain his operation, what he plans to do, what he currently has in that location, and what has occurred that is offering him this this opportunity to expand his business. We gave him an additional bay, I believe, last year, a year and a half ago. And back, we authorized a paint house in the back. His operation has not impacted any of the residents in my ward negatively. So I just give you the opportunity to explain what you want to do and why you're doing it, sir.
Well, I need more waiting room. I think you've been by there once or twice when we did the paint booth.
Yes.
So, like, there's 26 foot of that frontage of that store that used to be there. We got a permit to build a wall in there and block it off, put a big waiting room. And then the remainder part of the building, they took one wall out, and there's a garage door in the back, like a double bay garage door. And then they allowed me to put one on the side where Smoothie King is, because it originally was there.
Right.
So it brings me 12 more spots inside the building to work on cars.
Will you be able to be in compliance with, venting the room properly and as such?
Yes, Phil, there's already explosion-proof fans in there, ventilation in that end of that building.
Again, Mr. Gillette's been a good neighbor. I don't have any problems with this proposal. I've not been by there in a while, and I will plan on coming by the next few days and speaking with you. But there's a traffic lane there that I think is sufficient to get cars in and out.
Yes, sir.
And then there's sufficient area behind the building for turnarounds and such, so I don't have any questions. What time were you going to be altering your hours at all?
No, sir.
And so what time will you be closing?
8 to 5, Monday through Saturday.
Which is what you've been currently doing?
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much. That's all I have.
Mayor Schneider.
But I'd like to not speak as the mayor, but as a former council member and former patron of the former operator of this business. This has been an automotive repair business forever. Yeah. And I don't think it's ever caused any angst or problems with any of the residents in the area. Just an observation.
Thank you, Mayor. So business as well?
Yes, sir.
Good, good. Before we close this public hearing, is there anyone in the audience who'd like to comment on this public hearing? Seeing none, Councilman Egan moves to close this public hearing, second by myself. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Ayes have it, motion carried, public hearing is closed.
Thank you.
Next item is old business. First item on the for old business, bills for a second reading. Bill number 9436. I'll move for a second reading, second by Mr. Hinkie. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Aye. All opposed? Ayes have it.
Ordinance authorizing a transfer of $10,000 from Park Utilities Account 547-26000 to Bangor Utilities Account 546-26000 for the purpose of supplementing the Bangor Utilities Account for the remainder of the fiscal year.
Councilman Hinkie moves for a third reading, second by Councilman Jones. All in favor? Aye. All opposed?
Ordinance authorizing a transfer of $10,000 from Parks Utilities Account 547-26000 to Bangor Utilities Account 546-26000 for the purpose of supplementing the Bangor Utilities Account for the remainder of the fiscal year.
Before the final vote is taken, is there anyone in the audience who'd like to speak on this bill?
Robert Smith, 2823 Chapel View Drive. Question on the move, you're moving $10,000 to the Bangor Utilities account. Is that correct? Okay. Now, you're saying that it's going to go over from what you budgeted for this year? Because right now you're in the August numbers, you're budgeted 35,000. You've only used 78% of that. You've only got 2 months left? So, 3 months, according to your August numbers. But I'm trying to find out how, do you know that $10,000 is what you need for this account? Because I could understand it if it was already over budgeted, but right now, you still got, 21% of your budget left.
Parker is right behind you.
I'm sorry?
Yeah. Motion to suspend the rules. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Ayes have it. Cheryl?
When working on this year, the upcoming budget, 2019, the finance director and I, we took the figures that were ending in August and early September, and we figured out how much more we would need in order to make sure that that account had enough money in it. And we looked at last year's bills at this time. If we had that same amount of bills coming in at this time, we will not have enough money. So that's why we're asking to move this. We may not end up using a whole 10,000, but we wanted to make sure we had enough.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Clerk, please poll the council.
Shildroth.
Yes.
Hanky.
Yes.
Pagano. Parson. Siam. Harris. Jones. Egan. Caputa.
Yes. Bill number 9436 becomes ordinance 8461. Next item is Bill 9437. Councilman Hinkie moves for a second reading, second by Ms. Pagano. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Ayes have it.
Ordinance authorizing transfer of $20,000 from Park Utilities Account 547260000 to Civic Center's Utilities Account 544260000 for the purpose of supplementing Civic Center Utilities Account for the remainder of the fiscal year.
Councilman Siams moves for a third reading, second by Councilman Pagano. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Ayes have it.
Ordinance authorizing a transfer of $20,000 from the Parks Utilities Account 547260000 to the Civic Center Utilities Account 544260000 for the purpose of supplementing the Civic Center Utilities Account for the remainder of the fiscal year.
Before the final vote is taken, is anyone in the audience that would like to speak on this bill? Seeing none, clerk, please poll the council.
Shildroth. Yes. Hanky. Yes. Pagano. Yes. Parson. Yes. Siam. Harris. Jones. Yes. Egan. Yes. Caputa.
Yes. Bill 9437 passes, become ordinance 8462. Next item, substitute bill number 9438. Councilman Hinkie moves to accept the substitute bill, second by Councilman Pagano. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Ayes have it. Substitute is accepted. Councilman Hinkie moves for a second reading, second by myself. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Aye. All opposed? Ayes have it.
Ordinance authorizing transfer of special use permit number 7978 from Hertz Car Sales to Top Gear Auto LLC, located at 1285 North Highway 67 for the operation of the used auto sales business.
Councilman Hinkie moves for a third, second by Councilman Shildroff. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Ayes have it.
Ordinance authorizing a transfer of special use permit number 7978 from Hertz Car Sales to Top Gear Auto LLC located at 1285 North Highway 67 for the operation of a used car and auto sales business.
Before the final vote is taken, is there anyone in the audience that would like to speak on this bill? Seeing none. Clerk, please poll the council.
Shildroth. Yes. Hanky.
Yes.
Pagano. Yes. Parson. Yes. Cyan. Harris. Yes. Jones. Yes. Egan. Yes. Caputa.
Yes. Bill 9438 passes and becomes ordinance 8463. Next item is new business. Board appointees. Mr. Hinkie.
Yes, I would like to propose to appoint Mr. Dan Sullivan, 501 Clark Street, to be an alternate on the Board of Adjustment.
Second. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Ayes have it. Thank you, Mr. Hinkie.
All right, thank you.
Mayor?
Thank you, Mr. President. I have a nomination for the Youth Advisory Commission for a youth member nominated by Mr. Harris. It's for, what the hell is it? Elena Cribbett. And I just wrong memo. You gave me the address. I got the wrong memo here. Oh, here it is, 2238 Marissa.
Move to approve. Appointment made. Next item is requests. Councilman Egan moves to accept the application for a transfer of special use permit number 4247 from Archway Pizza Incorporated, doing business as Domino's Pizza, to SFP Enterprise Incorporated, doing business as Bus Loop Burgers, for the operation of a carry-out restaurant located at 8442 North Lindbergh. Second by myself. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Ayes have it. Motion is carried. Mr. Shuldroff.
Thank you, Mr. President. Is Ms. Porter here? I just wanted to ask you. Yeah, can I make a motion to suspend, please?
Second.
Mr. Shuldroff moves to.
Good evening.
Yeah.
Second by Mr. Egan. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Ms. Porter, I just wanted to welcome you to Florissant. I wanted to give you the opportunity to talk about Bus Loop Burgers, and do you have any more in the area? And just could you just tell us about it, please?
Yes, Bus Loop Burgers is currently located at 10462 St. Charles Rock Road in Ashby, in the Family Video Plaza in St. Anne, Missouri. We moved there 2017.
Okay.
And prior to that, we come from Wellston, 6111 Dr. Martin Luther King, and Hodemont. We were in the historical building since 1996.
Okay. Is it your family that runs a business?
It is family owned.
Great.
But of course, we hire outside help as well. And
all right. Well, thanks.
Adopt them.
We're always looking for mom and pop places, and I appreciate you picking our city, man.
Thank you for having us. Our
Thank you, Ms.
pleasure.
Shuldroff.
Just don't make chili. Or...
Mr. Egan.
Good evening, Ms. Porter. It was nice to speak with you earlier this evening, and I actually went by the business on the way here. I was very excited to see that the Domino's is in fact open, and it is absolutely wonderful. If you have not seen it, the council, the residents should go by and look what they've done to that building. I'm very excited about you coming into what I call my world international food scene up in that plaza up there. We have Thai food, we have Subway sandwiches, we have pizza, and now we'll have Bus Loop Burgers. So welcome to Florissant. It was good to chat with you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Egan. Mr. Jones.
I was just wanting to say welcome to our city and good luck with your business, and we hope that you have a few hamburgers in your purse.
Thank you.
And, you know, I always poke this out there about trash cans in front of your business, so I hope you'll have some common courtesy and place one out in front so people coming in and out can throw trash in it.
May I ask a question, please?
Yes, ma'am.
Would you mind it if it was inside, if we decided that it would be better inside?
Okay.
Reason being, in the mall where we are now, Family Video actually had trash cans sitting along the sidewalk, and it seemed like it drew, people came especially to clean their cars out, and some of the trash was left over, the debris we were cleaning excessively. And so when they moved it inside, it was like totally different.
That, very acceptable. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Jones. I'm looking forward. Always great to have a good burger place around. Can't beat a good burger. Looking forward to it.
I've been told they have turkey burgers, right?
Fresh ground turkey burgers and veggie burgers and fresh ground chuck.
Well, yeah.
Fresh cut fries.
We need the chuck. We need the ground chuck.
Yeah, we have fresh
To make a
ground
good
chuck.
burger.
You open yet?
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Next item on the agenda is bills for the first reading. Bill number 9439.
Ordinance to authorize an amendment to special use permit number 8130 as amended to allow for the expansion of an auto repair and auto body shop, DBA Mag Automotive, located at 8461 North Lindbergh.
Bill number 9440.
Ordinance authorizing a transfer of special use permit number 4247 from Archway Pizza, DBA Domino's, Incorporated, DBA Domino's Pizza, to SFP Enterprises Incorporated, DBA Bus Loop Burgers, for the operation of a carryout restaurant located at 8442 North Lindbergh.
Councilman Egan moves for a second reading, second by Councilman Shildroff. Is there any discussion? All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Ayes have it.
Ordinance authorizing transfer of special use permit number 4247 from Archway Pizza Incorporated, DBA Domino's Pizza, to SFP Enterprises Incorporated, DBA Bus Loop Burgers, for the operation of a carryout restaurant located at 8442 North Lindbergh.
Councilman Egan moves for a third reading, second by myself. Roll call, please.
Shildroth. Yes. Hanky. Yes. Pagano. Yes. Parson. Yes. Cyan. Harris. Yes. Jones. Yes. Egan. Yes. Caputa.
Yes.
Ordinance authorizing a transfer of special use permit number 4247 from Archway Pizza Incorporated, DBA Domino's Pizza, to SFP Enterprises Incorporated, DBA Bus Loop Burgers, for the operation of a carryout restaurant located at 8442 North Lindbergh.
Before the final vote is taken, is there anyone in the audience who would like to speak on this bill? Seeing none. Clerk, please poll the council.
Shildroth. Yes. Hanky. Yes. Pagano. Yes. Parson. Yes. Cyan. Yes. Harris. Yes. Jones. Yes. Egan. Yes. Caputa.
Yes. Bill number, where are we at around here?
9440.
9440 becomes ordinance 8464. Next item on the agenda, council announcements. Mr. Jones.
Okay, I'd like to start off with Lindsay Lane. Speed limit has dropped from 30 to 25. There are signs on the ends and the beginning of Lindsay Lane. The speed limit won't be enforced until the signs come down. I know I got a lot of Nancy negative feedback on it. Well, they're not enforcing it now. I think we gave them a week's time or something like that to have common courtesy so they can learn that the street has dropped down to 25 miles per hour before any tickets or any enforcement is brought out on the streets. Another thing I'd like to bring up is team, our food pantry a couple blocks over. There's always somebody hungry morning, noon, or night. They're always looking for volunteers, and they're always looking for canned goods and so forth. Also, we have a lot of street work starting in all our wards right now. Please give those construction workers some common courtesy and take your time. We don't want to see no cars tore up neither. Another thing is the litter in the city. We have not forgotten about that. We are still pushing forward with our problem with litter in the city. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Jones. Mr. Parson.
Thank you, Mr. President. Once again, I just want to make an announcement that Ward 8 and Ward 9, we're having a joint town hall meeting on Wednesday, November the 14th at the James J. Egan Center at 7 p.m. Anyone that wants to come out and ask any questions and gather any new information regarding Ward 8 and Ward 9 is certainly welcome to be there on that day. Additionally, I want to remind everyone about their Florissant 5. Make sure that you get to know your neighbors. I know sometimes there's some movement in the different houses that are in your area, and I always think that it's good and beneficial to get to know your neighbors. And additionally, make sure that you support our local Florissant businesses. I know that we have some businesses that are here that are nationwide, but I also want to make it a point that we patronize some of our local businesses. We just got a new one, Bus Loop Burgers, that's going to be coming in. I just want to make sure that we support those and we support some people that are here in this area. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Parson. Mr. Harris.
So Saturday we had another successful cleanup along Melanphy Road that was sponsored by the Neighborhood Watch, and I want to thank Jane Bowler for one of the watch captains. She was here tonight. I want to thank her for really providing the leadership for that. It went off great, and I want to thank the police department, Chief Lowry, and multiple other officers that were there, and just really helped us out with that as well. It was great. It was great to be out there with everybody. It was a nice day, and then also enjoyed the race to the shrine. Thank you, Joe, and all the volunteers that did that. It was a great time there. We had some new faces at this last ward cleanup, and then we had some that had been at the last one too. And one of those there that was a repeat was Elena Cribbett, and she is getting more involved, and now she's been appointed tonight by the mayor to the Youth Advisory Commission. So I want to congratulate her on that appointment, and I'm looking forward to hearing her voice and other youth in the community be able to contribute in a lot of ways, and just like to see that. So thank you to everyone involved in that and that came out. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Harris. Ms. Pagano.
Yes, well, first I'd like to thank Karen Goodwin and Old Town Partners and everyone for a beautiful fall festival. Honestly, it does deserve a round of applause. What a beautiful day. Everything was well organized. Thank you, Mr. Harris, because the rain did hold off that we were expecting. But the great day St. Louis was good to have. It's just really nice. It just shows what Florissant's all about. And then to Joe Egan again for the shrine. I can't tell you, I've watched the video of my granddaughter running in the tiny tots. Right, she only made it halfway and everyone was past her up, but it's very funny and comical, and you guys did a great job on that. And then on November 1st, hopefully you received your yellow postcards for wards 5 and 7. We will be having a ward meeting with Mr. Shildroth, and it will be at the new Justice Center, which we're very excited for all our residents to be able to see what's there. So that's at 7 o'clock on November 1st. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Pagano. Mr. Egan.
Thank you, Mr. President. I echo the sentiments by council that the Fall Festival is a huge success. I'm calling for an inquiry on the chili cook-off. I think everyone in Diaz would agree that we need some type of federal inquiry to see what happened, because no one on the council won this year. I believe it was Dr. Howe. Is that correct? How he won, I have no idea. But I'm sure that the mayor will be reaching out to his federal authorities for a proper investigation. Secondly, a big thanks to the city for the city input, and the street department and the police department for Race to Shrine. It was a beautiful day. It was our 5th year. Very, very happy. Hope that we have another one next year. And last, I've been on this council for 7 years, and we've had dozens and dozens of Boy Scouts come in front of us. This young man's the first one to stay the entire meeting. I can only assume that he's in trouble with his mother for some reason. Thank you very much. That's all I have.
Thank you, Mr. Egan. Mr. Hinkie.
Yeah, I'm just going to repeat what Jackie and Joe said here. Our city employees, before, during, and after any of these events, especially this fall festival, it's seamless. you don't realize all the work that they do, and after it's done, it's all cleaned up and taken care of. And Mayor, please pass along the sentiments from the City Council. And I was going to give a special shout out to Karen also for the exceptional job she does. And I think another round for Karen. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Inky. Mr. Shuldroff.
Thank you, Mr. President. I would like to thank Mr. Sullivan for serving on the Board of Adjustment. He originally inquired to Mr. Henke and myself about a spot on planning and zoning, which we are full, but that's a very demanding board, and to have somebody, even though he's just recently retired, want to volunteer his time is really, really good. I really appreciate him doing that. I would also like to thank the Fall Festival Committee for another great event, and I just want to let everybody know, Mr. Egan, I have petitioned our prosecuting attorney to investigate the ballot counting at the chili cook-off. We had a great event at the Shrine on Saturday, the Race to the Shrine. Thank you to the committee and Mr. Egan for a great event, and thank you to all the participants. The weather is changing. Please, ladies and gentlemen, don't start your car and leave it unattended. Unfortunately, there are folks out there who would like to take your vehicle, and it happened a couple of times recently in my ward, so please think about that. I would like to congratulate former Councilwoman Jerry Debo. She will be honored on November 3rd at the Old St. Ferdinand Shrine at 2 o'clock at the schoolhouse. She will receive the National Historic Preservation Medal from the Reverend John Clark chapter of the National Society of the Daughters of the American Revolution. Only 15 of these awards are given out each year. It's quite an honor for Mrs. Debo, and I will be happy to be in attendance. Thank you, Jerry.
Thank you, Mr. Shuldroff. Mr. Jones.
Yeah, I forgot to mention I have a neighborhood watch tomorrow in Ward 2. I had a plan for some time. We had budget dates coming up. My fault. We mixed them with the same date. I'm going to try to be at both places the best I can. A lot of you people that didn't get the mailing, I'll take the heat for that too. A lot of the cards probably won't be received till tomorrow. But any of you Ward 2 people that see this message tonight, I hope I can see you over at the JFK. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Jones. Yes, Saturday, November 3rd, Ward 4 Neighborhood Watch is going to hold a trash cleanup on Humes and Patterson Road. We will be meeting at Walker Elementary School on Humes Road about 9:45. Come on out there, make sure you sign up and get all your gear you need. Also, if you own a firearm, do not keep it inside your vehicle. Make sure you lock it up and keep it secured. Be a responsible firearm owner. And I want to piggyback on what Mr. Shuldroff says about your cars running. We've already had several in the city be stolen because of that reason, where it's cold out in the morning and start their car and leave it and go inside so your car can warm up. That's exactly, you got gang guys, people just driving around looking for that specific thing to take your vehicle. So make sure you do not run them in the morning to warm them up. That's all I have. Thank you. Mayor?
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to thank the North County Churches United for Racial Harmony and Justice for the Lifetime Achievement Award. It was very humbling. I was in good company with Sister Carl Mary and school districts. Chief Lowry received that award last year, and we're just been able to make a lot of progress with the cooperation of the different denominations in our city, having constant communication with them. Myself and the chief has paid big dividends for Florissant. Many people were in Overland on Friday. I want to congratulate the governor on his 13-city tour. He hopped around 13 cities in 4 days promoting Proposition P for infrastructure and also for job creation. And I just want to salute the governor for his energy and his leadership on this issue. We're going to be hosting the County Municipal League meeting at our Justice Center this Thursday evening. We'll be welcoming municipal officials from all over the St. Louis area, including, I think there's at least one going to be from the city of St. Louis. We actually have a board member on the Municipal League from the city of St. Louis this year. Also, we're going to have on October 25th, Thursday, and earlier in the day, we're going to have the senior Halloween party at the Egan Center. That's always a sellout. And then another Halloween event is going to be October 27th, Saturday. It's going to be the Family Boo Bash. And this is going to be kind of like the replacement for the Halloween night event that we always used to have. But it's kind of hard to go trick-or-treating and then get in the car and drive up to Egan Center. So we're going to have a trick-or-treating kind of an event, Family Boo Bash, Saturday night Saturday during the day, noon to 2. And then on Halloween, we're going to have a swim and skate and see how that goes on Halloween night. That's from 7 to 9. Then we have a lot of events. We've already mentioned we had a great fall festival. We had the Great Day St. Louis. We had Race to the Shrine. Well attended, a little bit windy on the Race to the Shrine. People would have stayed a little longer if it wasn't a little bit too windy. But we never get tired of having the parties. Last week, I found, we took the plaque off of one building to put it in storage so it wouldn't disappear on us. And then they told me that they had some other plaques in park maintenance, so I asked to see them. And one of them is a plaque dedicating Dunnigan Park and has all the post-World War II founding fathers of our modern Florissant. And so I'm going to clean that up and have a wall picked out at the Egan Center so that we can reflect on all those people from back in the 50s that really got this city jump-started after World War II. But they also found a brand new plaque which maybe was meant to be put on a building at St. Francis and St. Pierre. The plaque is about Harry Truman, and it says, while campaigning for 1934 Senate race, Harry S. Truman gave a speech at this spot to the residents of the farming community of Florissant. Upon completion of his speech, he visited with shop owners on St. Francis Street. In 1945, Truman was sworn in as the 33rd President of the United States. So this is kind of like a Washington slept here kind of a thing. So I had to find out, okay, where in the heck did Harry Truman make a speech, and how am I going to find out from 1934? We emailed we called and emailed the Truman Library in Independence, and they said, well, we'll get back with you in about a month. And so I didn't really want to wait that long. So I asked Tucker Conan from KB Electric. Tucker was 8 years old at the time, and he told me, I know exactly where that speech was made. It was made in the back on the side of the building that's directly across the street from Bunkers. They used to back a wagon up there, and then the speaker would speak towards the gazebo or looking at the shrine. And so thanks to Tucker Conan, I know where the speech took place, and we're going to install that plaque in the sidewalk. And as fate would have it, November 2nd, the Friday before the election, is the 70th anniversary of the great election of 1948 when the newspaper said that Dewey beat Truman, but in fact Truman beat Dewey. We've got a great picture of Truman at Union Station here in St. Louis holding up the Chicago Tribune saying that Dewey beats Truman. So we're going to celebrate the 70th anniversary of that, and that's going to culminate next week. I'm going to designate next week as Voter Awareness Week in Florissant. And I've sent out invitations to the whole world to join us at Bunkers. We're going to have a street party, another block party to celebrate, to enjoy each other's company. And, you know, Truman played the piano, so we're going to have Dan the Piano Man as our entertainment. Bunkers is all in, Amores is all in, Old Town Partners is all in, and I hope you're going to be all in for another party. We never get tired of partying here in Florissant. And of course, after that, we're going to have the Veterans Day Parade on November 11th. So we'll see you on November 2nd to celebrate Truman's victory over Dewey.
Thank you, Mayor. Next regular meeting of the City Council will be held on Monday, November 12th, 2018. Next budget meeting for the City Council is scheduled for Tuesday, October 23rd at 6 p.m. in the council chambers. Councilman Shuldorff moves to adjourn regular meeting, second by Ms. Pagano. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Ayes have it. Thank you. Where are we going? I'm starving.